In the depths of the North Atlantic, 2.5 miles beneath the crushing darkness, lies a world that few have ever seen. Beyond the grand staircase, past the twisted remains of luxury cabins, exists a forgotten sanctuary where duty and honor lived their final hours. The officer quarters of the RMS Titanic. Here, in rooms no larger than modern closets, lived the men who commanded the world's most magnificent ship. Tonight, through advanced deep-sea mapping and ROV exploration, we venture into these intimate spaces where captains made their last decisions, where junior officers wrote their final letters home, and where the weight of responsibility rested on shoulders that would never surface again. As our remotely operated vehicle drifts through the cold Atlantic current, its lights pierce through over a century of darkness to reveal something extraordinary. Perfectly preserved in the ocean's icy embrace, these quarters hold more than furniture and belongings. They hold the very essence of maritime tradition, frozen at the moment when the impossible became reality. Every brass button, every navigation chart, every personal photograph tells a story of men who lived by the sea and died by it, leaving behind a legacy written in rust and silt. This is where time stopped on April 15th, 1912. If this exploration moves you like it moves me, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing. Your support helps us bring these incredible underwater discoveries to life. And honestly, it means the world to have you along on these deep-sea journeys. Now, let's descend together into a world that has waited over a century to be seen again. The ROV horizon descends through layers of crushing darkness, its camera adjusting to capture the ethereal glow of bioluminescent creatures that drift like ghosts past our lens. At 12,500 feet, the seafloor begins to materialize, a vast desert of silt and debris scattered across the abyssal plain. But rising from this desolation, the unmistakable silhouette of the Titanic's superstructure emerges. Her officer quarters nestled within the forward section of the ship, remarkably intact despite more than a century beneath the waves. Our first destination, the captain's cabin. Captain Edward Morrison's quarters, located on the starboard side of the ship's bridge deck, reveal themselves as our ROV maneuvers through a gap in the twisted metal. The cabin door, once painted pristine white with polished brass fittings, now hangs at an impossible angle, its surface transformed into a canvas of rust patterns that resemble abstract art. As we pass through the threshold, time collapses. The captain's desk remains exactly where fate left it, a heavy oak piece that somehow withstood the ship's violent descent. Scattered across its surface, preserved beneath a protective layer of silt, lie the tools of maritime command. Brass dividers for measuring distances on charts, a sextant still, gleaming dully in its velvet-lined case, and weather-stained logbooks whose pages flutter gently in the deep ocean current. A silver-framed photograph sits upright, its image obscured by marine growth, but clearly depicting what appears to be a woman and 2 children. Captain Morrison's family, waiting for a homecoming that would never arrive. The captain's bunk, built into the cabin's port side, tells its own haunting story. Military-precise blankets lie twisted and compressed, their navy blue wool now darkened to black by depth and time. Beside the bunk, a small nightstand holds a pocket watch, its gold case tarnished green, its hands frozen at 11:47. Whether this marks the time of impact or the moment the cabin flooded remains one of the sea's carefully guarded secrets. Moving aft, we explore the quarters of First Officer William Blackwood. His cabin, though smaller than the captain's, reveals the meticulous nature of a career seaman. Navigation charts cover every available wall surface, their careful pencil markings still visible beneath layers of sediment. These charts tell the story of Titanic's planned route, from Southampton to New York, a journey that should have taken 7 days, but ended in less than 5. Officer Blackwood's personal effects paint a picture of a man caught between duty and dreams. His uniform jacket hangs on a wall hook, its gold braiding transformed into delicate coral formations. Inside the jacket's breast pocket, our ROV's mechanical arm carefully retrieves a leather-bound journal. The pages, miraculously preserved by the Atlantic's icy conditions, contain entries written in careful, precise handwriting. One passage, dated April 14th, reads, "Calm seas, clear skies. Maiden voyage proceeding splendidly. Mother would be proud to see her son commanding such a vessel." The junior officers' quarters tell equally compelling stories. Third Officer James Pemberton's cabin contains something extraordinary, a collection of letters tied with red ribbon addressed to Miss Catherine Whitmore of Bristol. These love letters, written during the voyage, reveal a young officer's plans to propose upon reaching New York. The ring, a simple gold band with a small diamond, still rests in its velvet box on Pemberton's writing desk, a promise that the ocean claimed before it could be fulfilled. The quarters of 4th Officer Robert Harrington provide perhaps the most poignant discovery. A telegraph operator's son, Harrington had joined the crew, seeking adventure and financial stability for his widowed mother. His cabin reveals a shrine to family, photographs of his mother, sister, and younger brother carefully arranged on a makeshift altar beside his bunk. A half-written letter to his mother, dated April 14th, speaks of his excitement about the ship and his plans to send money home after reaching America. Each officer's quarters contains the same standard issue equipment: ship's chronometer for navigation, parallel rulers for chart work, barometer for weather observation, and compass for emergency navigation. These instruments, crafted by the finest London manufactories, represent the pinnacle of 1912 maritime technology. Their brass and steel components have weathered the deep-sea environment remarkably well, testimony to the craftsmanship of a bygone era. The communal areas of the officer section reveal their own secrets. The chart room, where officers gathered for navigation meetings and weather briefings, contains a large table covered with maritime documents. Ship's manifest lists, passenger rosters, and cargo inventories lie scattered across the surface, their ink faded but still legible. A wireless message log reveals the final communications received before the collision, ice warnings from other ships that would prove tragically prophetic. The officers' mess, where these men shared their final meals, preserves an atmosphere of interrupted routine. China plates bearing the White Star Line's distinctive logo sit arranged for a dinner that was never served. Crystal glasses, somehow unbroken despite the ship's violent end, catch our ROV's lights and cast rainbow patterns across the cabin walls. A brass bell used to summon stewards hangs silent and motionless, its last ring echoing into eternity. Perhaps most moving are the personal touches these men added to their temporary homes. Officer Blackwood's cabin features a small shelf of books, maritime law, navigation manuals, and surprisingly, a collection of poetry by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Third Officer Pemberton's quarters contain a mandolin, its strings long since dissolved, but its wooden body intact, testament to musical evenings when officers gathered to sing songs of home and sea. The sleeping quarters reveal the humanity of these men in their most private moments. Personal grooming items, razors, tooth powder, hair tonic, sit arranged on washstands exactly as their owners left them. Uniforms hang in wardrobes, pressed and ready for duties that would never come. Each man's Bible rests beside his bunk, some open to specific passages that perhaps provided comfort during the voyage's uncertain final hours. The officers' quarters also contain evidence of the ship's final desperate hours. Emergency equipment, life preservers, signal flares, distress rockets, lies scattered throughout the cabins, hastily gathered but never deployed. Telegraph forms contain partial messages, begun but never completed, as duty called these men to their posts and, ultimately, to their fate. Water damage patterns on cabin walls tell the story of the ship's final plunge. Different flood levels mark the stages of Titanic's descent, showing how the ocean claimed these spaces room by room, deck by deck. Yet even in destruction, the quarters maintain their dignity, testament to the men who lived and died by the sailor's code. As our exploration concludes, we encounter something that stops our ROV in the water. In Captain Morrison's quarters, mounted on the cabin wall beside his navigation charts, hangs a framed document, his Master Mariner's Certificate, issued by the Board of Trade in 1898. 14 years of experience commanding passenger vessels, culminating in command of the world's most advanced ship. The certificate, its parchment darkened by time and pressure, represents not just one man's achievement, but the pinnacle of maritime professionalism in the early 20th century. These officer quarters, preserved in their deep-sea tomb, remind us that behind every maritime disaster lie individual human stories. These men were not just crew members, but sons, brothers, husbands, and fathers. They had dreams beyond their duty, plans beyond their voyage, lives beyond their profession. The Atlantic claimed not just a ship, but 48 years of accumulated nautical wisdom, untold stories of adventure and discovery, and the irreplaceable experience of men who had devoted their lives to connecting continents across dangerous seas. In the crushing darkness of the deep ocean, these quarters stand as monuments to maritime tradition, professional honor, and the ultimate sacrifice. Every artifact, every personal effect, every carefully preserved detail speaks to lives lived with purpose and ended with dignity. The officer quarters of the RMS Titanic remain not just historically significant spaces, but sacred ground where duty met destiny beneath the April stars of 1912. The ocean keeps its secrets well, but tonight, through the eyes of modern technology, we have witnessed the private world of men whose final act was not surrender, but service. Their quarters, forever frozen in time, continue to tell their stories to those brave enough to listen in the eternal silence of the deep.